This is quite the debate. Video games do not get worse. Our expectations just got larger. Yeah, plenty of people have opinions on this, so let me share mine. I would argue that both of these are true. Yes, my expectations on video games just got bigger because video games of the past are so good. They're still classics, they're still fun to play even to this day. And yet video games have evolved about as much as the Samsung S25 evolved from the S24, and how that evolved from the S23. In some ways, it even totally regressed. Local multiplayer used to be a wonderful pastime, but nowadays it's all online. It's all on Discord. It's definitely not the same type of fun. Whether it's better or not is subjective, but what I can say for sure is that we are severely lacking in split-screen multiplayer games department. Halo Infinite infamously promised this mode, and then totally broke it, so players have to get around it. All this evolution and de-evolution is basically like how we used to have headphone jacks on major phone manufacturers, but now we don't. Yes, we have Bluetooth earbuds now, and they are pretty nice and convenient, but they're definitely not the same experience. That's what I feel about gaming right now. They're better in some ways, but worse in others. It's a different kind of gaming experience that is neither better nor worse. But ironically, that actually makes it worse. It should have been a complete evolution, not a standstill stagnant of mediocrity. The evolution in gaming is only felt on the technical things, like significantly faster loading times thanks to NVMe SSDs. Oh golly gee, I'm so glad that I can load absolute classics like Mind's Eye way faster than games of the past. Graphics definitely evolve. We do care a lot about performance these days. Ray tracing is definitely a revolutionary tech for gaming, but the innovation on the gameplay department are still minimal. I have been going back to games from the 80s and 90s. Most players would quit 95% of games from that era in under an hour. Bro, I haven't finished quite a lot of modern games either, so this isn't an exclusive issue for older games, especially when saving them can be a bit of a problem. So yes, I say both of these statements are true. Games are getting worse, and our expectations are getting higher. Forgive me for demanding some standards when games are reaching hundreds of dollars. It's one thing to talk about how video games have regressed, it's another thing to talk about how people are not allowed to play video games for charity. Nintendo hates anyone using a property without authorization, even if the people using those properties are doing it for a good cause, like charities. Nintendo forces major speedrun charity event to remove its games. Is anyone really that surprised with this development? Nintendo has always done this and will continue to protect their intellectual property in the craziest of manners. The charity event in question is a speedrunning charity event that takes place in Japan, because of course Nintendo is going to be merciless of copyright infringement of their own people. If they're treating the international gamers with an iron fist regarding their intellectual property, it's certainly going to be true to their local Japanese gamers. But hey, Nintendo is already doing a great job at marketing their product. They certainly wouldn't want anyone else to do the marketing for them for free, right? Yes, Nintendo games and consoles are still good enough for people to enjoy, but man, you're gonna need way more than good enough next time, Nintendo. We got plenty more gaming-related hooplas, so if you liked the video so far, don't forget to click the like button, comment, subscribe, and leave some tips through any of these means, including YouTube membership, links below. Thank you to all the sponsors this week, you're all fantastic. This alone justifies the MacBook, according to this Twitter X user who makes the comparison between the MacBook charging brick and the Windows laptop charging brick. Yeah, that's not the average charging brick for Windows laptops. It depends on the laptop, but they're usually smaller if you're not using it for anything heavy like gaming or video editing. Also, that MacBook charging brick is really not convenient with that brick on the end. You can technically remove that end and extend that, but the cable would be way longer and less convenient. The same thing can be done to the Windows charging brick, so this is ultimately a pointless comparison. I can justify the MacBook, and that is for anyone who is more familiar with macOS and the Apple ecosystem, who works better and faster on macOS. And for those who can afford Apple products, anyone else? There's nothing wrong with sticking to Windows. Oh, and both Windows and Mac laptop users can definitely consider rebelling against both ecosystems and enter Linux instead. PC and MacBooks can be used for productivity stuff, which is not something you can use a console for, unless you make money off of playing games. But not this game if your console is this old. Genshin Impact is no longer playable on the PS4. Hoyo decided to remove the support for Genshin Impact on the PS4 because the hardware is just not supportive enough for the scale of the game that is Genshin right now. I actually kind of feel bad for the PS4. It's not just because the console is more than a decade old at this point, but it's also because it can't even run mobile games as well as mobile phones do. The hardware of the PS4 is not as good as mobile phones today. Your phone right now could probably outperform the PS4. Genshin Impact is a mobile game that just so happened to have console and PC ports, so most of you can play them with a proper controller rather than a touchscreen. To have Genshin Impact be constantly updated so much that the PS4 is no longer strong enough to run it, despite the fact that the game runs perfectly fine on mobile phones, is a very funny but also very distressing event this week. Sorry PS4, your time is up. Moving on from outdated hardware, we have outdated laws repackaged to new laws. Well, this is a punny name. US senators introduced a new pirate site blocking bill called Blackbeard. Get it? Because Blackbeard was a famous pirate, and now we changed one letter from his name, and now it meant an entirely different thing. Effectively, what this bill is going to do is it's going to ban websites that host pirated content, and that they have the right to designate online locations as foreign digital piracy site. The courts can order the US ISPs to block access to the site. Blackbeard also extends that blocking through search engines, social media platforms, and DNS resolvers. Basically what we Indonesians have been suffering. Happy 18th birthday, my wonderful but utterly dysfunctional country. Oh, I'm saving talking about my country for later. The funny thing is, I would actually support this bill just by the name itself, because Blackbeard not only is a punny name, but it actually stands for Block Bad Electronic Art and Recording Distributors. Yes, I too would really want to block electronic arts completely away out of this industry, and I too want to torch the record labels for their unfair and disgusting treatment of their artists, but alas, the bill was to ban something else entirely. I guess because whoever made the bill played Battlefield 6 beta and realized that DICE and EA might have been onto something. Speaking of video games, some games would play better with a controller. Just not this one. Gamers around the world, do you want to see how an AI generates a controller? Look at this insanity. This controller has 3 analog sticks and no D-pads. This is supposed to show an X-ray vision of it, but the insanity doesn't stop there, guys. Oh no, the insanity ramps up to 11 once this controller rotates. Let's rotate the controller, shall we? That's right, the controller is two-sided. Why would anyone in their right mind want to create a controller that is two-sided? How are you gonna comfortably grip that thing without accidentally pressing the buttons or moving the analog sticks? How are you gonna put down these controllers without accidentally making an input? Also, this controller has 2 right shoulder buttons, but only 1 left shoulder button. Oh wait, it has 2 left shoulder buttons, but 1 right shoulder button. It depends on which side of the controller you're looking at. Whoever thinks that this is a good design is clearly out of their minds. Well, at least no gamer in their right mind would want to have that controller as their primary gaming device, and no gamer in their right mind would want to support censorship of fiction. The National Center on Sexual Exploitation, or NCOSE, made this article back in the 1st of August talking about the banning of hundreds of games from Steam from a gamer's perspective, or more accurately, a moral guardian who claims to be one. Recently, our friends at Collective Shout in Australia celebrated the success of their campaign, urging the removal of nearly 500 rape and incest games from the video game platforms Steam and itch.io. You really don't want to claim that you are friends with a group of moral guardians who think that fictional women are also just as deserving of protection as real women. You have nothing to celebrate. In fact, you should be ashamed when all that time and effort censoring games you find immoral could have been spent on saving real women. And don't you dare say that you can do both. That organization friend of yours sent 3,463 emails and 70,000 petition signatures. That's a lot of effort to to censor more than 20,000 games. You really want to tell the world that all this effort that could have been used to help real victims of exploitation was used to delist and censor video games. Games like No Mercy encourage players to sexually torture every female character and rewarded them for doing so. It was promoted with language like, become every woman's worst nightmare. Yeah, and Doom promised that you can rip and tear demons from hell. That doesn't mean you're gonna do it in real life. Research shows that sexually violent media can and does lead to increased acts of sexual aggression in real life, as well as attitudes supporting sexual violence. No, it doesn't. The article had the temerity to cite some bogus research from 13 years ago with some really bogus claims. One paper claims that playing video games that depict violence against women and sexual objectification of women lead to acceptance of rape myths, like, if she's wearing a short skirt, she's asking for it. Yeah, this study is claiming a lot of BS with no evidence, and I can just dismiss it without evidence. These games can change us to be who we are. No, not in the way you think. So we must consider, why is there a market for rape and incest games in the first place? Because some people are into that in a fictional context, which you clearly cannot and do not distinguish because you are delusional. What does that say about us? About whom we are becoming? It says that human beings love to explore taboo topics in a fictional setting, which is perfectly normal. If you don't like that, then I suggest learning the difference between fiction and reality. Let's move on from dumb moral guardians to another type of dumb moral guardians, and we're gonna have to discuss a movie that I really like. K-pop Demon Hunters is a really stupid title of a movie that has no right to be as good as it is, and yet it is really freaking good. It's incredibly fun, whimsical, action-packed, intense, but also surprisingly compelling and knows how to add depth and complexity to a simple, cliched, but admittedly easily accessible plot. It also does not phone in on the K-pop aspects, as the songs not only fit the movies pretty damn well, but they're great enough on their own so much that they actually chart the billboards. Not everyone agrees though, like the aunt of the OP here who thinks that K-pop Demon Hunters are turning their nephews gay. Wait, what? My aunt put on K-pop Demon Hunters a few days ago and turned it off because she didn't like it. Ah, yes, the beginnings of many moral guardian crusades. I didn't like it, and we're gonna make it a moral issue if you like it. Today, my other aunt told us that she turned it off because she didn't think it was a good influence for her son, and that the boy idols dressed too gay. Well, they are K-pop boy bands after all, but if you're worried about the Saja boys turning you gay, you probably already are. And that's all for the video today. Here's a cat. Don't forget to check out my previous videos here. Click the like button, comment, subscribe, leave some tips, just $1 down below. And thanks for watching.